Shot. This is the easiest I've ever to answer.
I'm going to say beer. I can't even begin to describe.
I'm actually going to go crazy. I'm going to buy everybody around on this one. So let's go back to the Winter Classic. Hey, Phil, do you know when the Winter Classic was?
It was yesterday.
I honestly thought it was today.
They did that. All right, so they did that because of like 3 college football games on today. And today, supposedly, the Texas ASU game was one of the wildest games in football ever, according to multiple people that have texted me about it. So
yeah, and they did have the playoff games yesterday, and they also scheduled a healthy block of games. Phil, the NHL really needs to revamp the Winter Classic.
It's not just this. It's I wanted to it's funny because I've seen multiple people on Twitter that are mutual followers of mine suggest a full day of multiple Winter Classic games, multiple outdoor games at big stadiums. And I like that idea. I do. But it's got to be with teams that deserve to be there, that are good teams, not the Chicago Blackhawks just because they have Connor Bedard. They got dominated in that game. And rightfully so, because that's not a good team. And you put them up against a halfway decent team in St. Louis. And that's what happens. That's why it made no sense to me for Chicago to get another outdoor game after being as bad as they are the last few years. No. Why?
Phil, it's amazing that they gave him this game. We first guessed it when they announced it was going to be Chicago. We're like, all right, great. So you're putting Bedard in there. The NHL has done a great job. Sorry, let me correct that. They did a great job early on with the Winter Classic. It was the only game in town. They had a 4-week buildup on HBO for the road to the Winter Classic. And you started, if you were a fan of these teams, let's say you're watching the 24/7 of the Rangers. We know how much I love the poem that's at the end of that. The HBO did a great job with that. Where do you find the road to the Winter Classic now? That's for starters. Put on ESPN. Thank you, Amazon. Sounds great. Put on ESPN. Let's get more eyeballs on it. I understand Amazon's building up their products, and that supposedly the NHL series on Amazon's good. Let's worry about that. Build up the drama to the game. And then one thing that they used to do, they used to schedule a game in week 3 between the two participants. I don't think St. Louis and Chicago played last week or recently to kind of get that like fire going. See, last week, and yeah, they had the Winter Classic.
Mr. Michael, you can have multiple Winter Classic games on in the same day.
Yeah,
you just can't have any other NHL games going on that day.
Yeah, you can't have 10 that day. So great move by the NHL. And on New Year's Day, look, you were afraid about going up against the college football games. Well, that's why you don't put it on New Year's Day then. Then you got to give up New Year's Day. However, they were doing it and they were getting great ratings. So first off, stay away from the college football playoffs. Let's start with that. Then, all right. So now the other thing is, I do like the idea of multiple ones on the same day, but I don't want to take away from what the Winter Classic is. And I do want the Stadium Series to be in there because lesser teams that don't, as you said before, didn't deserve to be in the Winter Classic, you give them another game. Like, for instance, Islanders Rangers. That's got to be a Stadium Series game. Rangers versus Red Wings. That's a Winter Classic.
This comment's hilarious. I'm sorry. It's funny.
Yeah,
it's so true. Thank God that was in February of 2024, not February of 2025. This Ranger team would get spanked. Oh.
Well, it would have been the first half of the game just for 60 minutes because there's a reason why they had to come back. And oddly enough, the guy that tied the game was Mika Zibanejad, and he did it on a one-timer. Who'd have
Yeah.
thought? You know, he could actually score a goal. But Phil, not enough tension is on the Winter Classic. I honestly thought it was today. I thought it was today. And I'm going through it. And granted, yes, I ran around.
Didn't we have this same discussion about the Stadium Series last year?
The same,
or was it the year before where nobody knew when the Stadium Series game was?
2 years ago, when we had that we didn't know.
That's right, because the last year was the Rangers. We all knew that one, but a lot of people across the NHL didn't know when the Stadium Series game was 2 years ago because they did like little to no advertising for it.
Exactly. And then you put it on a date against something else. Look, the NHL is always going to have to fight against something else. Now, and the funny part about that Stadium Series game is I believe that was the Nashville game. And it got good publicity, got a good crowd. They put on a good show. But the thing is, the NHL needs to, first off, they need to get a whole new PR team. That's the story. And allow them to market players. So that's another thing too. But you didn't even know the Winter Classic was today. And they put it on 5 o'clock yesterday against college football playoff games anyway, and it didn't click. Don't put the worst team in the league in there. And just because they were good 10 years ago, because the Blackhawks have played far more Winter Classics than everyone else. And I understand you want to try to keep an original 6 team in there. They didn't want to have Canadian teams in there for a while. And then it was, all right, we're just going to get the popular teams in there. Next year, they're talking about the Florida Panthers. That sounds good. Hopefully, they're talking about the New York Rangers against them. Look, you're going to get a lot of people to watch the Rangers, whether or not they're good or bad. But on the other hand, the Rangers bottom out. I'm not sure if I want to put the Rangers in the Winter Classic. I want a team that's going to be competing hard in the Winter Classic. How about and by the way, feel free to think outside the box. The Cotton Bowl was a great idea a few years ago. Keep going with that.
Does anyone remember who the first ever outdoor game actually was?
I do. I remember everything about it, including if I recall.
Happened right before a major move in team history, too.
Yeah. The first Winter Classic was in, I believe it was 2008.
No, I'm not talking about the Winter Classic.
Oh, sorry. Oh, you're talking about the first outdoor game in modern NHL history. That'll be right outside of the MGM Grand in 1991 in September. So, by the way, first off, put one in Vegas. And secondly, that was right before the Marc Messier trade. And Gretzky was in it. It was nearly a disaster. However, if I recall correctly in that game, Phil, I think Doug Weight and Tony Amonte both scored in that game.
I know Amonte did for sure. I don't remember if Weight did or not.
I know Weight did. So that
was
right,
so then they both did then, because I remember Amonte scoring.
And if I recall correctly, in the original Winter Classic, it was in Buffalo, and I think the first 2 goals came in the first 30 seconds of each of the first and the third period.
Yeah.
And of course, Crosby winning it with snowflakes coming down.
Yeah.
It was picturesque. All right, guys, that's the end of Big Apple Hockey's Bar Talk, and we had our big discussion right there. We have 200 of you guys watching. Make sure you're hitting that subscribe button for us right now as
Your ideas are intriguing to me, and I wish to subscribe to your newsletter.